Maggie, as the director of the prize, it's its 25th year. What have you seen over these past 25 years? What are some of the bigger achievements?
It is the 25th anniversary of the prize, and I think what I tend to focus on is the achievement of our 25 prize laureates over the years. We have an organization who has come up with oral rehydration solution. We have one who's built a world-class school in one of the largest slums in Africa. Of course, Kennedy Odede, who started his organization Shafco with 20 cents, a soccer ball, a dream to change his community, and the brilliance to do it. So before COVID-19 hit, the foundation made the decision that in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the prize, rather than host a larger celebratory event, that the foundation would actually provide unrestricted funding to all of our previous prize laureates to really recognize their exceptional work on the ground and to encourage more of it.
And Peter, as CEO, you've met leadership of some of these laureate organizations who have won in the past. Very different organizations, but is there a common thread between the leaders that you've found?
You know, Marshall, the thing that always strikes me is that each of these organizations has done something, accomplished something that nobody else thought was possible. A phrase I like to use is that they make the ambitious feasible. They take an idea that maybe some of us would think, is there a solution for this? And they say, well, yes, this is how you do it. This is our experience. Here's the roadblock we ran into, and here's how we got over it.
And people may know about the prize, or they may know about the foundation. They might not have connected the two. In your mind, how does the prize and the foundation's work programmatically connect, or are there values the organization has that underpin both?
Well, entirely. Starting first with the values, right? Among the foundation's value set, I think there is one combination that really speaks to what the prize is about. And that is the combination of thinking big and humility. None of these laureates would have gotten where they did if they were just simply trying to help a few people. But they thought, here's a big problem and here is a big solution to it. So just like Conrad Hilton, who said, think big, act big, dream big, prize laureates do exactly that. But at the same time, I think their big thinking is tempered by humility, because they know that in their work, it's really about how individual people are helped and bettered. And I think there's no better exemplar of that than Homeboy, in the way that it looks people in the eye and says, we know you have been through a real difficult situation. You've probably done some things you wish you hadn't done. And we know there are plenty of people who won't even look at you. But we will help you, and you will be able to help others.
So Maggie, Peter had mentioned thinking big and ambition, and in your mind, what is the significance of the prize? And in your time in the foundation, what are the changes that you've seen over the past 10 years?
The beauty of the prize is really in recognizing exceptional humanitarian work. And I think over the years, sometimes the jury has recognized organizations working on issues sort of the moment, and other times they've done quite the opposite and recognized organizations working on issues that aren't receiving the attention that they need. This year, I think the jury recognized in Homeboy certainly their exceptional program model and impact, but more than that, it's the community of compassion and tenderness that they create that really is changing people's lives and stopping intergenerational violence in its tracks. And that's, of course, just our most recent prize laureate. But other years it has gone to organizations working on torture or women survivors of war, cleft palate, mental health. And so I think the beauty of the prize is really the flexibility that the jury has to look at exceptional humanitarian work and recognize the organizations that have something to teach the world.
And Peter, building on that, what imprint on the world would you like the prize and the foundation's work to have?
If you look at the century that we're in, we're 20 years into it, we got 80 to go. This is going to be a hard century. We've seen that already in terms of expanding refugee population, in terms of climate, and now in terms of a global public health crisis. This is going to be a century of dislocation. And our institutions, our humanitarian system, needs to be able to respond to that. We've got a humanitarian system now that is big and that has has plenty of people pushing within it, but it was built 70 years ago. It wasn't built for the problems of today. Hilton Foundation would like to be involved in the upgrading, renewing, revitalization of that system, and particularly within the areas of refugees, water, and young children.
You touched on something which for me is fascinating. I have a international development background, in that artificial distinction between humanitarian aid and foreign aid that governments have built over time. When there is climate, migration, things are blending more, but those two structures are still too separate. And I think that's one of the things that could be interesting, is the integration of foreign aid and humanitarian relief in a more consistent fashion.
Absolutely. These two are very closely related. In fact, they're really different phases of the same process. If you were living in New Orleans after Katrina, or in any disaster situation elsewhere in the world, you would see that's an acute moment, but it's in a context of a whole cycle of development or inequity. And I think we need to be able to come back and forth between those, respond as necessary. But the term humanitarian sometimes is taken to mean only about acute moments of distress. It means much more. It means being concerned about the well-being of humans, right? Whether it's in a critical moment after a disaster, or in a system that needs to become more equitable over time.
So Maggie, Peter mentioned the catalytic role philanthropy can play, and certainly the prize, as the largest unrestricted prize of this type in the world, has got to be catalytic for the organizations that receive the prize. What do you think the primary benefit to these organizations is?
I think our prize laureates would say the number one benefit from receiving the prize is the seal of approval that they receive, and some of the doors that it opens in terms of meetings and partnerships and advocacy even. But beyond that, as I alluded to earlier, we have had large international organizations and very small organizations receive the prize, and even the very largest of the organizations in terms of budget who have received the prize have said that the unrestricted nature of it has been invaluable, because even if perhaps it is an organization that has a hefty budget, oftentimes a lot of that is restricted funding. And so having an unrestricted prize can allow the largest and the smallest of organizations to innovate in ways that perhaps they might not have been able to do without that flexibility.
Excellent point. Maggie, is there a standout moment for you in the past couple of years with the prize that you think really exemplifies the work?
Gosh, that's a really good question. Every prize laureate is my favorite prize laureate in that moment. So that's a hard one to answer. Certainly we've had just brilliant minds on our stage, but we've also have and continue to have brilliant and diverse minds that sit around that jury table every year and allow us to delve into the topic of that year's prize recipient. And so, anniversaries provided time and an opportunity to look backwards, and I think they also provide an opportunity to look to the future. Now is certainly an interesting time to be thinking about the future, but really the prize is about recognizing exceptional models for tackling some of the world's most challenging problems. And so as we sit and scratch our heads thinking about the great challenges facing our world today, there are people in communities all over the world solving facets of those problems. And so I really look forward to the next 25 prize recipients that the jury decides to highlight, so that we can all learn from their approaches, their tenacity, their creativity, and really their experience for tackling what seem to be very daunting challenges and times right now.